Live from New York, it's Ask This Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Ask Engineer. It's me, Lady Ada, the engineer, as it says down there. With me is Mr. Lady Ada. We got a jam-packed show for you tonight, an hour plus of all the maker, hacker, engineering news, plus a special feature, Phil's rant. You'll have to just tune in.
No, it's not a rant. It's how we can all.
No, it's good. It's like it's got feeling.
It's how we can all do things better together.
It's Phil's advice.
No, it's not rants.
What do you want me to say?
I just think how we could do things better together.
I love them, so
Yeah.
It's a positive thing.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you look at it, I guess.
Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. What I meant was his passionate.
I mean, it's a little bit of a rant.
The passionate view. All right, let's kick right into it. Why don't you tell them what's on tonight's show?
All right, on tonight's show, we're going to talk about shipping safe and smart. We are still shipping all of your orders nearly instantly.
Safely.
Here's some pre-pandemic photos. Our team thanks you for keeping us in biz all this time over the last year and more. Please place your orders if you'd like to support Adafruit and all these folks manufacturing in New York City. Show and tell people around the world showing and sharing their projects. Lady Ada will be talking about who's on the show and tell, what they share. Time travel, look around the world of makers, hackers, artists, engineers, current news, and more. Help Wanna, we got some jobs from the Adafruit jobs board. We've got some CircuitPython news, Python and hardware news, MicroPython news, all the news that's Python-y, that's in our newsletter, and more. Got some made in New York City factory footage. We got some 3D printing videos from Noam Petro. We have everyone's favorite segment, DigiKey and Adafruit present. IN MPI this week is Worst Electronic. New products, top secret. We're going to answer your questions over on Discord, all 28,000 plus of us, adafruit.it/Discord. Please go there to post your questions towards the end of the chat. We'll try to get to all of them, but that's the best place to do that. All that and more on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
All right. That's us.
Okay, so
let's get right to
let me
content.
Yeah, let me go over some stuff. I think there was a weird
Twitch stream.
There was a weird thing where I stopped the show and tell, but maybe it didn't go. But if you're having any problems, hitting the refresh. Let them give them a chance to catch up.
Yes.
I think the show is running late. So before we start off, I'm going to do one of the unfortunate things that I have to do each show, it seems. So this is some friends of mine. They're in a space in Brooklyn Center in Minneapolis. They're an advertising agency, creative firm. I used to work with some of the people there. They're doing a relief drop-off at Brooklyn Center at Covens, Minneapolis. It's at 2429 Nicollet Avenue. It's relief for the folks in Brooklyn Center. And I know for folks who haven't maybe seen the news, Brooklyn Center is in Minnesota. Another person was killed by the police. And so right now, especially in the backdrop of what's going on with the officer that is accused of killing George Floyd, this is not good. We're all tired of it. Another person dead. So that community, they have needs. There's people that are protesting. There's people that are trying to help out the community. So this is where the relief drop-off is. I'm going to post some more resources on Adafruit as soon as I get a chance. I try to wait because we'd like to do more things than just a hashtag. We try to use our platform for good and for awareness and to get people to do things. So I'll post links. Some of these are direct for the family. This is for Dante Wright and other resources and more. So sorry I have to do this every week, but this is how it is, and this is important to all of us. These are human rights that we're all fighting for. So on to show stuff. So we have a mask thing that we've been doing for the last 75-ish days, 85-ish days. So our 100 days of masking is almost over. We put a mask in every order that's $1 or more, going to all of the United States, and it's worked out really well. Thank you, everyone. They've sent me nice emails. You've told our team, and it's part of what we do for freebies. We're going to be ending this because it's going to be that 100 days soon.
Yes.
And it's also part of the other things we give away.
That's right.
Lady Ada, what do we give away in each and every order?
I'm glad you asked. We're still doing all sorts of freebies. We love to give away free hardware that we think is useful. $99 or more, you get a free PermaProto half-size breadboard. Great for making your projects more permanent and have nice soldered wires instead of a breadboard, which can be flaky after many years of use. $149 or more, you get a free semi-QT board. We have a couple different sensors that unfortunately we can't get anymore because there's a part shortage. But we still have about 10 to 15 different boards. You'll get a different one each order. If you make an account, we'll make sure you don't get the same one twice. Otherwise, you'll just get a totally random one. $199 or more, you get free UPS ground shipping in the continental U.S. And $299 or more, you get a Circuit Playground Express, our all-in-one dev board that's great for use with CircuitPython, Arduino, Code.org, CS Discoveries, MakeCode, Rust, and more. So it's a great, no-solder way to learn programming. We give them away for free, and kids love them, and adults love them.
Yeah.
Everyone loves them, even cats.
We're going to have a bunch of more freebies. The other thing that I'm sure we're all going through in our lives in different ways. So everything's kind of restarting. So you'll hear about part shortages. You'll also hear about everybody's back, and a lot of things are kind of restarting. And so there's some projects and some efforts and some things that we really wanted to do, and we have a whole new lineup of products. So we'll probably have a bunch of other freebies. We've tried to keep everything as easy to manage for our teams over the last year. And now we're all ready to go and even add more and do more. We just want to make sure we weren't adding any more burden to the already kind of complicated thing, which is operating during a pandemic. So stay tuned for that. There's a lot of cool stuff. In particular, I think we'll see Trinkies and more, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to, yeah.
Don't ruin it.
I don't want to ruin it.
It's a secret.
Yeah, so keep ordering stuff.
Trinkies.
Show and Tell, people around the world. Show and Share their project. Lady Ada, we had a bunch of folks on Show and Tell.
Yeah, I'll go through them real fast. There was a lot, so I won't hit everybody, but JP has got an Adafruit Funhouse. He's adding a PIR sensor to make a motion-activated project. He'll show that on his live stream tomorrow. Jepler made a little whack-a-mole game with a Neoki Featherwing. Melissa made a home assistant interface using a Funhouse, so she can control her lights and have her Alexa actually work with the home Funhouse and turn on the LEDs. Very impressive. She actually got a lot of integration going. Non Pedro updated their 8x8 matrix to be a 32x32 matrix. They have a video that we're going to show to whet your appetite later this week. They're going to probably have the guide. It uses the RP2040 feather. It plugs right into the back. Scott has been doing a lot of continuous integration auto commenting work. So we have continuous integration that checks people's code to make sure it's linted. It compiles. It doesn't need any formatting. But that can be a little confusing for people, especially if it's their first time contributing to CircuitPython libraries. So we're going to use GitHub Actions to help people to tell them what they need to do and point them to their guides that we've written.
Not rant related, but one of the things that I had in our talk last week, I think I did, is I screenshotted someone. It was their first time that they ever put a pull request on GitHub, and it was pulled into the CircuitPython branch and the entire repo. And they were so happy. They're like, I've never done it before. I've done it, and I think these type of tools will even help people even more. Because what we see a lot is folks will try to do things either in electronics or programming, and they get really discouraged. Not necessarily because of the tools. Some of the people aren't so friendly.
Yeah.
But if you can help with all these tools, everyone always says everyone should learn computer science. But that's easy to say. In practice, you have to celebrate the achievements like a pull request.
We should be robot friends.
And make these computers help us.
Not robot disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Sean, coming to us, writing some code and tutorials for DigiKey, has been playing with the Pico and got one Pico to debug another Pico via a VS Code with step debugging, which is very impressive. Took a week, so he's going to write that up so other people can learn from what he's learned. I'm excited because I'm on Windows too, and I agree. Development used to be only on Windows. Now Windows is actually the toughest. Robotics Collab had a 12-week open source robot building project for a bunch of students. They built the robot. It can record and play back motion. And it's got sensors and vision, and it's a super cool looking robot.
Yeah, Robotics Collab. I'm gonna have a post about this. They just sent me some more info a second ago.
Stuart made a UVC disinfection box with an oven as the body. And it's got all sorts of safety interlocks and controls. Did a really great job. It has voice commands and warnings. It has a passcode so you don't accidentally turn it on. A really great engineering product. I like how they took it a couple extra steps to make it a really safe project, because UVC can really give you a sunburn. Michael is working on his satellite message center with the RockBlock modem and is getting further and further. Just coming by and give us an update on how well it's working. Cy got his Pico cellular board working, and he made a Pico phone using Twilio and the Jokes API. You can call a phone number, and it will tell you a joke, or maybe it calls you and tells you a joke. I couldn't quite tell. Rick took a Arduino compatible Feather 328p and added some sensors to it and made a one-use IoT project. It tells you whether the box that contains the dog food has been opened in the last 7 hours. Why? Because that way you know if somebody's fed the dog in the last 7 hours.
Or if you know the dog's lying.
You would know if the dog is lying, saying it hasn't been fed when it has because he says there's 4 people in the household. And like, again, the dog is like, I've never been fed my entire life. This will light LED to let you know.
Yeah. If you're someone who looks around your house and says, boy, I wish I had a thing that does the thing, check out the show and tells, because there's a lot of like single serving devices that like, he also gave other examples. So he has 2 ducts in, not quack ducts, but ducts. He has 2 ducts in his AC system. 2 of them go one place, one of them goes the other. Now he can control all 3 from different locations. That's a very specific thing. And for that house, that's the way it has to get done. And then for this dog feeder, and we also had, Colin did a cat one.
Yeah.
You just want to know if you fed them or not. And we're also working on something
You don't want to log it. You don't have to go to the internet. You just want to know, did I feed when was the last time I fed the
we have one
cat
that'll
dog?
text us if there's water leaking. And then other ones that we're working on, folks like to know, when I left the house today, did I close the garage door?
Yeah.
So things like that, like you can do it now. And when you watch these shows, you can hear how they're using Twilio and Zapier and if then this that. And there's a lot of like even no code solutions to do that. All you need to do is maybe a little CircuitPython.
Okay. And last but not least, Mark came by. It's 1 year show and tell anniversary. Made a show and tell NeoPixel Featherwing, and it looks great using the show and tell logo to celebrate 1 year of Come By Show and Tell.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Very soon we'll be resuming stickers, but for now, all participants on the show and tell get our thanks. It's part of our Adafruit live series of shows. If you're watching right now, this second, it's Wednesday, 8 p.m.
That's what you're watching.
Show and tell is Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. These are Eastern times. And together, those are our Wednesday shows. On Sunday, we do the Desk of Lady Ada, and the Desk of Lady Ada is one of my favorite shows that I do on Sunday. Probably one of yours, Lady Ada. And for Desk
it's my desk.
And for Desk of Lady Ada this week,
what did
I do a speed up now. This is 30 seconds of all the things that we did.
We went a little bit long. So we showed off the project bundler. We talked about how it does it with the JSON backend. So if you're interested in how it works in the backend, we also showed off a bunch of Trinkies. We showed off this Kano board and then the JSON output, and I did a teardown, and we showed off some graphics of Trinkies, and then I basically just did some Trinky demos. Here is a rubber ducky project, and also showed off the QT 2040 Trinky, and then I talked about in the Great Search of finding a little...
Yeah, so then we have the Great Search. We do that with DigiKey, and that's when Lady Ada uses her powers of engineering to find what you want. And then this one was a neat one because they're these like standoffy things.
These are standoffs, which are incredibly hard to insert. It took me like a few minutes to insert them. But they're standoffs that are nylon, low-cost standoffs. And they're not actually standoffs. They're board supports, which is like the most of what I taught and what you could learn from watching the Great Search is what they're really called. So I go through and I show how I find it, and I look at the 3D model, and then I look at within the data sheet, I get some ideas for other parts for this board support to separate but mechanically connect the boards without extra screws or hex nuts or whatever.
Okay, and that's our show that we do on Sunday. So check it out. You can watch the full thing. That's our little speed up just to remind us because we go over a lot every Sunday night, and lately we've been showing, I'd say, like 4 or 5 new hardware products. So definitely a good Sunday night chill thing if you're interested in electronics.
Come by.
And more. All right, so every Tuesday, speaking of live shows, we do a product pick with JP. This is where we broadcast live from the product page, and while the show is going on live, you have a really big discount. So here is this week's recap from JP, and don't forget every Tuesday we do this if you want to save some bucks and also hang out with JP.
Well, the product pick of the week is the AMG 8833 infrared thermal camera. I have a Pi portal and I'm running an Arduino sketch with the AMG 8833 plugged in over I2C. It is using its 8x8 infrared sensors to measure the temperature using infrared of objects in front of it. And then this program is actually interpolating that to the 124 pixels. So you can see we get a really cool sort of predator thermal vision look at the world. You can see pretty clearly me waving my arms here. As I get closer, it'll detect the heat getting closer. So there's my face. You can see my forehead is the hot part at the top, my mouth down below. It's the AMG 8833 thermal camera.
But wait, there's more. On Thursday, on JP's show, he has a couple of cool things coming up. I'm going to show what's coming up this week on one of the previews. But last week, I'd asked JP, can you show this cool thing that we just launched? It was beta on the Learn system. And I'm going to let him explain it. But we've already updated it and updated the name. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But if you just wanted the easiest, too easy. We're making it too easy.
Too easy.
We're lowering the standards. Anybody can do electronic programming now. What does that mean? So we're making it even easier to do projects. And JP's gonna. This is like the first hour we launched, and he's like, "Oh, hey, JP, go check this out and show it off on your show. Do a live demo."
All right,
So
and he
here it
did.
is.
Bundlefly. You're downloading a project from the Learn system, and you just need to get the parts of the project you need. So that's going to be the code, that's going to be the libraries, and that's going to be the assets. We have this Bundlefly project bundler that goes and collects all the libraries that you need to run a given piece of code and all of the assets. Gone are the days of separately copying things over. Now all we do is click on this project zip link. If I look in the contents of this unzipped archive, that's everything I need. We'll pick everything here that I just unpacked from that project download. I'll drag it to my CircuitPy drive. This will follow all of the dependencies of everything in the code.py file and every dependency that the library itself might have. Oh, there it goes. And voila, Bundlefly.
So that is tomorrow. JP will be showing another piece of this, and then here's a preview of something you might see. All right, time travel. We're going to look around the world: makers, hackers, artists, engineers, information, and more. So first up, Adabox is full. Everybody who's going to get an Adabox probably going to get an Adabox. We're shipping end of April, May-ish. There's some parts delays, but we're not worried about that. We'll be worried about other stuff later, but not these particular parts. However, here's what I suggest. Sign up, because if you didn't get a chance to sign up, folks move or their credit card didn't work or something, and then we have briefly some slots that are open, and you'll get the one that's coming up, 17. Now, here's the bit of news. If you are an international customer, we are pausing international after this Adabox. There might be a few people that had a gift certificate one, and we'll continue and we'll fulfill all those, but we'll let folks know exactly when that's going to happen. Reason is the entire world changed everything with shipping, and shipping Adabox
And taxes and VAT and many things.
I had thought we were going to be an international federation of planets, perhaps, at some point. But no, we're all just independent kingdoms, and everyone's on their own, and it's kind of crummy. So one of the things that's changed is anytime you ship something to another country, the cost for the end customer is going to be more than an Adabox at some point. And a lot of times it looks like that's becoming true. So nothing's changing for anybody at all whatsoever right now.
If you've already subscribed, you will get this box.
Yeah, you're all fine. You're all fine. We're going to work with our resellers. We're going to do everything. But basically, Adabox is going to be USA, Canada, and then when we do international, we just have to figure out yet another way to do it. So don't worry, not going to go away forever, but it will be going away soon in a variety of ways. Everyone will get an email. Don't worry about it. You'll know about it in advance. And no one gets charged until we ship anyway, so you don't have to worry about, but I paid for a year. Don't worry about it. We don't ship until we charge. Okay, next up. Here's what I wanted to talk about. So, a couple weeks ago, probably a couple months ago, I had made an observation, and I said,
Passion observation.
I said, hey everybody, there's a lot of young people in particular that'll post their Lego projects up, and maybe they'll do electronics, or maybe they're just doing Lego, and some guy, a bunch of dudes, say, well, don't you know? Here's how you spell Lego the right way. Don't you know? Lego is going to sue you because they sue everybody. And there seems to be this unofficial deputized Lego police, and I think we don't need that. And so I said, hey, instead of that, maybe just say, hey, cool project. Hey, nice use of these building block things. But when someone posts their project online and the only thing you have to say is, Lego's trademark, when did we become trademark lawyers? Don't do it. If you're a trademark lawyer, you don't do that and you don't talk like that. You'd have to say, this is not legal advice, blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
You don't see lawyers doing that, so don't do it.
Yeah, they charge.
Yeah, so the next
So why
thing,
do it for free?
So the next one, respect trademarks, yes, but don't ruin a builder community by talking about how you're the unofficial enforcer of the Lego brand. Anywho, so the next one I talked about is there was a post on another website, and it was brought to my attention, and I took a look at it, and I said, okay, we'll talk about this. Someone said the maker movement and Arduino, CircuitPython had lowered the standards, so that means anyone can just learn electronics, and anyone can just do coding. And they meant it as an insult, and they also said, people just want to put LEDs on their bikes, and they don't learn anything like that. Yes, some people just want to put LEDs on their bikes, and that is a lot of fun.
I do. This is mostly what I
And
do.
some people are engineers, and they go to space, and they also put LEDs on their bikes. Some
On the
people,
weekends or when they go to Burning Man.
and then some people, they aren't into electronics coding yet. They just want to put LED on their bikes, and they want to put their own images on it. And this is how you get them into it.
That's fun.
So let's all avoid that thing. Now, this isn't an Adafruit community. It's not an Adafruit site. But I think if we're all aware of these things, we can help, rehabilitate folks. Because if it's only crummy comments, if it's only things that are going to discourage people, the word gatekeeping comes in. So here's today's. Every single time we show someone how to solder, or another company shows someone to solder, or someone shows how to do something that's a very important skill that some of these gatekeeper guys will say, like, you got to cut your teeth on solder, don't just plug in everything. The problem is this. Hey, everybody, it's solder, not solder. America, stop this now. Honestly, there's not a W in anywhere in there. Aluminum, too. Get that right as well. And I know they're joking, but they're not. This is I delete so many comments like this now when we say solder, because it's okay. You know what we're saying. It doesn't matter. And so my request is...
Orwell also wrote a really good essay about how stupid pronunciation spelling is in English. I'm just cool with it. This is how it is.
I use lowercase in my emails because it doesn't matter if it's a professional document that I'm putting up online. Except when I started Hackaday, it was all lowercase.
Yeah. But you did that with CSS.
But I did that because I wanted all the comments to be lowercase. Because it lowers the volume a little bit. It's okay. It's okay.
It's like shades for your eyes. Text.
If you could just look at everything in, if you could turn down things, I think we would. Yeah. So let's not do this.
Don't do that.
And let's if you're gonna type something, say, hey, this is really great that you're showing people how to solder. And this is it comes up we have thousands of videos, and anytime someone says solder, someone decides to stop everything, I've got to let you know.
Can we talk about how the word kernel isn't spelled anyway the way it's pronounced? The military term kernel, it does not look anything like the word kernel.
I'm not even talking about that.
Why don't you go bug nobody goes to the military every day.
Do you know why?
Because they have guns.
He has a gun.
They have a gun.
And they'll be like, say kernel again. So
that's right.
So this is the thing. I don't think we should.
I want to talk about L's. If we're gonna take the L.
Now I'll say this: if this was in person and someone kept doing this, hey, I'm soldering, and someone kept coming up to me and saying you're saying it wrong, I would.
Ooh, good point. But it's on the internet. Maybe that's why they feel like it's okay.
I would say I'm going to burn them. I wouldn't do it, but I would say it. It takes a person with a soldering iron to stop a person with soldering. So, anyways, that's my request. Let's all, when we see this, to be like, hey, let's at least mention something about the good, not just pronunciation stuff. Okay, cool. All right, more time travel. Tune in next week for another passionate rant by Phil.
It's a passionate opinion brought to you by Phil Psyche.
Yeah. So anywho,
not a rant. Happy birthday, Palolu.
Happy birthday, Palolu. In the chat, we were just talking about SparkFun. I want to talk about Palolu because it's their 20th anniversary.
Happy birthday!
And Palolu, go check out their website. There's a sale going on right now.
They got great robots.
Yeah, and you can see their first product.
Motors.
And you can see a whole series of products. And Jan, who's the CEO, co-founder, or founder or co-founder, I think co-founder.
Co-founder.
I get lonely too. I talk to other people who run companies because I'm like, what can we do to make this electronic world better? And I think when we all talk to each other, especially companies that are like, we don't consider each other competition. Maybe at one point we did, but not anymore. And we're always looking out for each other when we can. And I remember when COVID started, and I was emailing with the co-founder. I'm like, here's what we're doing. Here's the stuff. Like, and I feel like when we do electronic design and you come up with things, there's like a skateboarder culture to it, which is like, hey, check out my trick. But there's also like, how do we support each other running companies? Because it is one of the toughest, loneliest, intense things. You just eat glass every day and ask for more that you can do. So happy birthday, Palolu. Congratulations. Most companies don't make it 20 years. You did. All right, next up. We have a whole slew of videos. Colin's Lab Notes is a little video series that we do every single day.
Yeah.
So it's a minute each. It's on all social media platforms. I'm going to play each one back to back. See you on the other side.
I've never owned a reflow skillet, so I figured I should start small. Say hello to MHP 30, aka Mini Hot Plate 30. It's intended for use in desoldering and rework tasks, but I'm guessing it'll work just fine for soldering a small board. I'll be using low temperature solder paste, which is also eutectic. So the tiny solder beads in the paste will go from a solid state to a liquid state all at once. For example, this test board I ran earlier. I didn't even speed this up. So I'll only have to cook my LED for a little while. And did it work? Yep. Thanks, Mini Hot Plate. For those who prefer feedback from their key switch, the question is, tactile or clicky? Tactile switches provide a satisfying bump before switch actuation. This bump can be subtle or more pronounced. It's determined by the size and shape of an actual physical bump on the switch stem. Tactile switches are a balanced option, good for long typing sessions, and they're relatively quiet in comparison to, as the name implies, clicky switches provide audible in addition to tactile feedback. The sound is created by a mechanism inside the switch, usually consisting of a metal leaf spring, sliding collar, or in this case a spring bar, which creates a rapid drop-off in resistance and audible click after a certain travel distance. An RGB LED isn't exactly a single light-emitting diode. It's more like 3 rolled into one, or maybe it's a 3-headed diode. You can see the 3 semiconductor light sources inside. Using one of these with a microcontroller requires 3 current-limiting resistors, plus 3 free pins capable of pulse width modulation. Of course, this is the old-fashioned way of doing things. Digitally controlled LEDs make RGB lighting much easier. Each one of these has a built-in driver chip that listens for color data on its serial port. And when that properly formatted message arrives, this little NeoPixel kicks into gear and handles all the PWM and color control on its own, and continues to do so until it's told otherwise. Thanks, little buddy. While soldering, you should make a point of periodically cleaning your iron's tip with either a wet or brass sponge. But which one? A wet sponge is cheap and simple. You clean the tip by dragging it through one of the slots in the sponge. You will need to re-wet the sponge at the start of each work session, so you might want to keep some water handy. A sponge won't scratch your iron, but the water in the sponge will cool it down rapidly, and this repeated thermal stress over time will shorten the life of the tip. By the way, don't try swapping in a kitchen sponge. They can't handle the same amount of heat. The brass sponge costs a little bit more, but lasts much longer. It is more abrasive, but that actually helps it clean more thoroughly, and you don't have to water it, which is nice. Whatever cleaning method you choose to use, you can help preserve your tip by coating it with a bit of solder before powering down. Just FYI.
Okay, more ahead all week from Colin. Next up, we have a new jobs posted on the jobs board, jobs.adafruit.com. Post your skills, or if you're a company, post a job. Or if you're looking for volunteers, this is the Microsoft Philanthropies TILS program. They are looking for a TILS volunteer. You can read all about it. It is a person who's looking for a computer science and creative problem-solving passion. Has it impacted your life in a positive way? Help all students gain access to these critical skills and become a TILS volunteer. TILS stands for Technology, Education, and Literacy Program in Schools. And more details, jobs.adafruit.com. And post up your... if you have volunteer things that you want to do, it's okay as well. Lady Ada and I look at each one of these, and we approve them, so you don't have to worry about spams and scam, and none of your information is shared. So that is why it's super good. Next up. Python on hardware. We got a bunch going on.
Okay, let's see. There's so much going on right
Yeah,
now. We
so
gotta zip through it. Or you want to just pick one thing?
I do. I'm just gonna hit a couple things real
Okay,
quick.
great.
We already talked about the learning system project bundle. So this is a little bit of a breakdown of what it is and some screenshots. Good work on that. Kattni Hackster featured the flowers. This is Winter Bloom synth, and it's powered by CircuitPython. Check out that cool interview. Recap of Scott's deep dive, and then news around the web.
Lots of Pico projects.
Yeah.
MicroPython, CircuitPython. But definitely a lot of Pico projects. People are building stuff with
Yeah,
Picos.
Toddbot in the chat is doing a really neat thing with all these encoders and MIDI stuff. So check that out. I was looking at that right before our show started. We just posted up some cool stuff in GitHub. Here's a Raspberry Pi Pico video conference controller running, you guessed it, CircuitPython. So if you look about what's happening, you'll see a lot of people are taking stuff they already did in CircuitPython and then seeing if it works on the RP2040. Then there's people who are like, I want to do a project, but the code isn't available yet for RP2040 unless I use CircuitPython, because there's a ton of libraries, codes, support, and projects. So we're seeing, like right now, it's our #1 download.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that in a second. But it is right now the most downloads that we're getting for installing CircuitPython is on the tens or thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of Picos. So if you have a Pico and you want to do something, but there's not software yet, or you're just looking for some help, CircuitPython's the way to go. We have things for the Funhouse board, the Pico phone that was just on our show and tell. So a phone made with,
robots,
you guessed it.
lots of key micropads.
Lots of keyboards. This is a cool cat zoom demo with a NeoTrinky. A Citron MakerPi Pico, and it works with CircuitPython. That's over Tom's Hardware. Has been covering a lot of what's been happening in the world of RP2040 and more, including it's like gossip. It's like, look, there's chips on the way to Arduino, and it's like, ooh, and they have a shot of that. So this week, the big story I wanted to talk about, which at least the big story I think, and I'm just going to go over to the video in a second, is these CircuitPython powered wings. So this was the Feather project that has these flappy wings, and it uses CircuitPython, and they were, fairy wing like, and trust me when I say the world of cosplaying and fairy wings, it's not all happy rainbows. And so we wanted to make sure that we got like the best guide that could be used for anything. We spent a lot of time on it. And check this out. We did not expect these cool, like...
She's got wings and a tail.
Wings and a tail. And this is, like, kind of one of the best examples I've seen of animatronics. And it just happens to be CircuitPython. And this is someone who does cosplaying, I think, for a living. Tons of amazing costumes. That a drivable car from Wreck-It Ralph. It was just like, it was unending. As soon as I saw this, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. So this is all made with CircuitPython, and if you needed to make adjustments to your code at an event or something, it shows up as a USB drive. You can change the speed, you can change how much it pauses. You might want to do something like, oh, I'm doing a photo shoot right now, it'd be great to have the wings do this. So anyways, this is like, I think, like culminates so many things together for 3D printing, our learn guides and all this. And projects like this will even be easier, and we'll talk about that in a bit with our new bundler. And then the other big news that just happened right before the show is we're up to 200 boards.
Yay, 200.
So like I was saying before, the #1 download right now out of all 200 boards. And what are 200 boards? A bunch of them aren't even from Adafruit. We made CircuitPython so it could go anywhere, run anything. Other people can use it. And so now we have 200 boards. And if you look, 1, 2, 3, just in the top 8, 3 of the boards are, four. Half, 50% aren't from Adafruit. And the reason I'm mentioning stuff like this is because, you have people that aren't nice about things. They're like, well, why isn't it all Arduinos? Why isn't it all something? Why isn't it all this? And what we want to do is you could take a board and you can run MakeCode on it, or you can run Arduino on it, or you can run CircuitPython on it. And the developers who make boards, they want to have something that's updated all the time. Maybe they don't want to write an entire, almost OS at this point.
Yeah.
So anytime you update CircuitPython, you get all the new features in the latest builds. So
how nice is that?
So this came along because we thought this was a good idea. We have CircuitPython.org. It's not on Adafruit, and the top boards aren't from Adafruit, and so it's all open source. And we have all these contributors. So we think that it's like one of those things, like, be so good they can't ignore you. Like, I understand, like, people dig in, they're like, I should always be C and C++ forever, but give it a try, because it's a huge ecosystem.
And it's fun.
It's fun. And we're up to 200 boards. You can choose any weird board.
Yeah.
Imagine it, we probably have it. You like e-ink? Got it. You want Bluetooth? Got it. Like STM? Got it. And we'll have a lot more. So congratulations on the team.
Yay!
Everybody out there,
200.
everybody community member. There's 200. We're going to have 200 more. And check out circuitpython.org/downloads, and you'll be able to see all the boards, scroll through them fast, and just use the filters. Like Wi-Fi, you can see all the Wi-Fi boards. And with that, that's this week's Python hardware. All right. Toddbot with the couple good comments here. CircuitPython devs, it's so fast to do a huge class of projects now. Yeah, that's it.
It's true.
And then Bill, hey Bill, is in there and he says the AT community loves Palolu because they made the Freedom Wing wheelchair interface possible. Their 3 volt to 12 volt up converter is amazing for 350. Yeah, see, this is why we
Can
do
be
this.
350.
All right, so we have one video I'm going to show before we do the guides. The video is from Phil B, and this was one of the silkscreen videos he did.
Yes.
It's silkscreen time again. I'm working on the Itsy Bitsy RP2040, a small board with a powerful chip. Designing small boards like this, I try to avoid this phenomenon I call the blowgun effect. And this is, like going back to the 1980s, if you read like Mechanics Illustrated, there was always this ad in the back, 2 inches square, the Javaro blowgun. And even as a young teen with no real graphic design education, I could still sense some kind of aesthetic crime was being committed here. I do my best to avoid it, but sometimes these small boards, there's only so much you can do. And sometimes you just have to embrace the blowgun ad. You just have to be the blowgun ad. So there's the finished board. Yeah, it's a pretty busy Itsy Bitsies.
Okay, we have 2,455 guides. Lady Ada, what's on the big board this week?
Okay, we've got a couple guides, a lot of contributor guides this week from Jen. We've got more DC motor performance hacking, so changing the frequency and the way you drive your DC motors to get the most torque whenever you need it. We got the new guide for the Adafruit Neo Trinky from Kattni, so we got Arduino and CircuitPython code to get your little Trinky board up and running, touching and glowing. And we've got 2 guides from Lally. We're going to be carrying the Scout Makes kits, and so they put the guides for their 2 kits up on Learn. So when those are in the store, you'll be able to quickly get to the Learn guide and vice versa.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about our big feature. JP had a little bit of video about it. I also want to talk about it. So we don't have a logo yet. We're getting close. But let's first go over to the Learn system. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a guide that is the code, the Sailor Moon Locket. And before, you could go to GitHub and you could, look at the code. You can cut and paste it. You could try to figure out which libraries. You could read them. You could look at the specific things you could use. Circup. But now you just click Download Project Bundle. And when you download Project Bundle, it downloads a zip. And, I'm using my desktop here. It's like, you want to allow downloads, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then you would download it.
Yeah.
And that has code.py. It has all the libraries, has all the dependencies, has all
Everything in the right
all the
format.
graphics,
Yeah.
all the music, anything you need, and you literally just drag it over
Yeah.
to your drive.
Very easy.
So the big pillars of like making electronics too easy.
Yes.
One is, do you have a site that's easy to use?
Yes.
Do you have a store experience that's helpful and open for everyone? Yes.
Yes.
Do you have all the files posted on GitHub for open source use?
Yes.
Is there code under a license that's permissive so you can
Yes.
use it? Okay. Do you have something like CircuitPython where when you plug in this microcontroller, it shows up as a USB drive?
Yes.
You do. Do you have like an entire support team and community that helps people out with code?
Yes.
Do you have projects that people want to do, or like cosplaying, or like satellites that go to space? You have all these things that
Yes.
people
Yes.
actually
Yes.
want
Yes.
to
Yes.
do.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So what's the next thing? There's so much stuff that you can do, just
Yeah.
like computers with package managers and more, and Python known to be batteries included. We wanted to make something. We're calling it the, Project Bundles.
Yeah.
You bundle it. It's bundlers, and now you just click one thing and your drive shows up, and you just drag all those files over, and the project just works.
That's right.
So now you don't have to even worry about it being too easy getting the code. Now it's too easy getting all the files.
Yeah.
So this is and it's really neat and elegant how it
You
works.
need straight your soldering.
Yeah, Lamore showed how this all works with this requirements feature and then dependencies and then the JSON file. Scott's going to talk about it probably on Friday. But the thing that we're still working on is we wanted to have like a little friendly like thing. So we're calling it Bundlefly because you bundle these up and then it flies over to you. So we're inspired by there's a really neat part of the Fly with Jeff Goldblum, and it'll be a lot cuter than this, but it's going to be called. It was called Bundlefly. We're calling ours Bundlefly.
Yes.
So this is just to give people an idea of what's going to happen. If you saw Desk of Lady Ada, you were terrified by this, and if you haven't, now you are.
Okay.
So next up.
Yeah, you're gonna like reach into your body and it's gonna like your guts are gonna come out.
That's right.
Cool.
Or alternative, the little thing that like shows the files flying
Yeah.
from place to place.
That's your intestines?
No.
I'm trying to stick on the Cronenberg thing.
Bundlefly throws up on all your files,
Oh, yeah.
liquefies them into a compact thing, brings them over to you, and puts them onto your drive.
Yes.
Bundlefly.
Bundlefly.
Yeah. All right. So anyways, made in New York City factory footage. We have some videos and some speed ups and more, and I'm just going to play them, see you on the other side. York City factory footage unless you saw some cranes outside of our window. This is the Disney building that they're building across the street.
That's a big crane.
This is where all your Disney Plus dollars go.
In the gigantic pit.
Yes, it's converted to
Disney bucks.
crane time. And then here is not a sunset because it was raining.
It was sun.
Yeah. Still nice.
Sun
though.
rain.
All right, 3D printing. Pedro, we're going to show two videos. We have the square pixel project, matrix, and then we have a speed up. So we're going to play those back to back, and we will see you on the other side.
In this project, we're making a square pixel display with an RGB matrix and black LED acrylic. This is a 32 by 32 RGB matrix running CircuitPython in the Matrix Portal library. The electronics are mounted to a 3D printed frame on the back of the display. It's powered by the RP2040 feather and the RGB matrix featherwing. Paired with the featherwing doubler, it's easy to swap out the feathers for future projects. The RGB matrix featherwing is set up so it plugs directly into the featherwing doubler. The frame and grid diffuser are 3D printed and snap fit together. A sheet of black LED acrylic fits over the display and it diffuses the LEDs. The 3D printed grid fits over the PCB with each LED enclosed in a square. This separates each LED and blocks the light from leaking into each square. The grid is what gives the display that iconic square pixel aesthetic. This acrylic is designed to diffuse LEDs and makes the colors really pop. The effect gets softer as it gets further away from the light source. The acrylic looks solid when the lights are off, making this kind of magical. This project uses the Matrix Portal library written by Melissa LeBlanc Williams. The code uses the library to create a slideshow player of animated sprite sheets. The images are stored on the drive, and the code looks for any bitmaps in this folder. You'll want to check and update the width of your display with either a 32 or 64. The sprite sheets are a series of images that are merged together in a single bitmap. Each section in the image is a single frame of the animation that gets played from top to bottom. It's really easy to play new animations by just tossing new bitmaps onto the drive. The code automatically cycles through all of the images stored in the bitmaps folder. The stock grid and frame will be removed from the display using a screwdriver. These screws secure the display's PCB to the stock grid and frame. The two are replaced by the 3D printed counterparts so they can be set aside. This was a non-destructive teardown and was fairly easy to take apart. Rest assured, you could put this back together if you ever need to. To cut the acrylic, I made a template and printed it on a sheet of paper. Using a hobby knife, I cut the square with a ruler so the cuts are nice and straight. I then proceeded to stick the paper template over the acrylic, lining it up with the bottom corner. I used a scoring tool and a ruler to carefully score the acrylic. I made several passes to get at least halfway through the sheet. You want to be really careful not to apply too much pressure. Once ready, I placed the sheet over the edge of the table and firmly snapped off the excess. The featherwing doubler is secured to the 3D printed frame using standoffs and screws. The frame is then fitted over the PCB with the grid diffuser on top. The black LED acrylic is fitted over the cover with the matte side facing out. The frame, PCB, and grid can then be pressed into the cover. Additional feet on the bottom allow it to stand upright so it's less likely to tip over. The IDC cable connects the display to the RGB matrix featherwing along with the power cable. To keep the display up and running, you'll want to use a 5-volt power supply. This 10 amp 5-volt power supply is great when you want to light up all 1024 LEDs. So if you have one of these RGB matrices, I hope this inspires you to check out CircuitPython. And if you're really into square pixel displays, check out some of our other builds.
learn how to make all this and more on 3D Hangouts every single Wednesday.
Window and Pedro.
DigiKey and Adafruit present
on NPI.
on MPI is Worth Electronic. Lady Ada.
This week.
What do they do? What do they make?
All right, this week we're covering an NPI from Worth Electronic. We've covered their stuff before. This is their second time around. I always love that when we get to cover different products from electronic companies. So this week we're going to cover, this is kind of new. I didn't even know that Worth made optoelectronics. This is a VCSEL. What's a VCSEL? It sounds like pixel, but it's not. This is a vertical cavity surface laser. That's right. It's a laser.
Laser.
You can have a laser on your circuit board quite easily. You don't have to deal with tubes or high voltage transformers or any of that nonsense. So what's a VCSEL? We call it a VCSEL. That's apparently how it's pronounced. It's a vertical cavity surface laser. Vertical. That's because it emits the laser out vertically through the top of the device. Cavity, it's not like a tooth thing. It's actually like how it generates the coherent light. Surface, it's on the surface comes off the surface of the device, and it's a laser. This is a 3.5 millimeter by 3.5 millimeter VCSEL, and you can see here it's kind of taken apart. I got this from a presentation. There's a ceramic substrate. On top of it is the contacts, the VCSEL element. It's bonded onto the ceramic surface. There's a housing element, and then there's like a diffuse silica glass on top. And this has a 2 watt, 940 nanometer emission laser output. Except it's like, normally you don't think of lasers as made out of solid state, but yeah, I mean, if you look at time of flight sensors and stuff, they're using VCSELs as well. So this is, I got this from Wikipedia. This is kind of cool. They show like how it's actually built. And they have like little thin layers of that end substrate, and that's what they use to, basically create the cavity that emits the coherent light out of the top of the VCSEL. What do I mean by coherent light? What I mean is the light that comes out of it is really 940 nanometers. And you can see this is the distribution of light that comes out by intensity. And you can see it's very, very sharp and pointed. It's really 940, and it's like not on the dot, right? It isn't like plus or minus 10, plus or minus 20. It doesn't have like a bell curve look to it. It's a very fine point. And not only that, but all the wavelengths that come out are coming out at the same phase as well. So compare that with your favorite infrared emitter before this VCSEL, which was, the infrared LED. These come in surface mount through hole, large scale. You can get 2 watt higher emitters. But if you compare the output, you see like the wavelength. This is a particularly low cost IR emitter. We use this for like TV gone projects. But you see on the left, the wavelength, it's 940, right? That's the middle, but it's like, it kind of smears out to like 900 up to, almost 1,000 nanometers. So it's very wide band comparatively to the VCSEL. And on the right, you can see the ambient temperature also affects the wavelength. So it's like, it's good enough for an IR remote, and these things are a couple pennies a piece. But if you need coherent light, you need light that is the exact wavelength and the exact phase all at the same time, and IR LED is just not going to cut it. So what are these used for? They're often used for time of flight or basically LiDAR devices. So if you have an Apple phone, the Face ID system uses VCSEL to light up your face, and then you can read the patent, but it like looks at the response and it makes a map of your face. If you looked at the Xbox Kinect, it also used VCSEL technology to.
Now, in this chart, are these the standard things? Distance, speed of light, time divided by 2. Are these what these stand for?
Yeah, because it's actually measuring how long it takes for light to bounce off of the point. And so we have time of flight sensors that we've covered before. This is how LiDAR works. It literally bounces light, and it has to be coherent because it actually measures the phase. You can't have a jumble of light. It has to be coherent. So when it comes back, you can measure how long it took and the phase difference of that light. And you can do the math. We're talking about like picoseconds here. So you have to have a very good driver.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that
Light moves fast.
Light moves as fast as light. So you do need to have a driver. Like you can't just like turn this on and like boom, you've got data coming out of it. You need to have that precise timing circuitry. And there's other companies that sell the VCSEL drivers. You just Google for VCSEL driver and you can check it out. There's various companies that sell them that will drive the VCSEL that you've got here and then measure the light back. But there could be other use cases for it. This is just the raw emitter. There could be all sorts of uses for it. It is infrared, so of course it's not visible to human eye. So in their presentation they're like, look, yes, LiDAR in time of flight, biometric and 3D recognition, robotics, home automation stuff. I mean, like, basically these things used to be crazy expensive and now they're like $10. And you can just pick and place them on. So this is like pretty sweet. If you have a use case where you need infrared light and you could greatly benefit by having it be coherent and by having it be very precise wavelength, a VCSEL will do the job much, much, much better than an IR LED. Don't fight with an IR LED. It's not worth the time. This does the job much better. So there's two versions of this. There's the A and the B, just to be aware. Both of them have basically the same specs, but one has a viewing axis of 60 by 45, and the other is 110 by 85. So it's a wider or narrower band range. It's pretty neat. It's like cool that you can just buy a laser semiconductor. You do have to heat sink it. I soldered up one to some wires, and you can see the light come out of it. I'll say that ironically, I thought usually you can put an IR LED under a camera and it will show up, but because this is so narrow band, it actually doesn't leak into the visible range enough.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's like I could show it off, but it doesn't actually look as. I thought like it'd be like a really bright point of light, but actually you don't really see it because it's doing a very good job of not
that makes sense,
bleeding into.
You don't want to waste all those photons,
right? Because usually, as you saw, usually there's a wider spread. So that said, check it out. This is the B one. Again, there's also the A version of the same sensor. And you can just both part names are like really long, so just search for Worth VCSL and you'll find them on digikey.com, and you can purchase them, and it's just a diode. You solder it on, you power it with a constant current power source, because it is 1.5 volts to 2 volts, and it can draw up to an amp or more. So you definitely need like a good power supply and a good heat sink. But like this is a super cheap off-the-shelf way to get, LiDAR quality sensors into your design. Could be cool.
And that's this week's Ion MPI.
Eye on MPI.
Okay, we're going to hit all the questions at the end, but I did want to bring in one since this
Yeah.
was related to this. The diagram, it shows that it's now a power output of 2 watts. Is it powerful enough to burn through stuff, or is the wavelength too low?
Usually infrared isn't used. I think it's a UV that are used to as a laser. That said, it's definitely too wide. It's too broad. Like you need to focus it.
Could
if you want to
use this for a TVB gun with like 100-meter range?
Yeah, you could. I was thinking about that, but you'd also you'd want to focus it because it's quite wide.
Yeah.
But yeah, it might work as a TVB gun. But like you need to really believe me. I turned this on and it's like the wire started smoking. It's drawing a lot of power. It gets quite hot.
What's the on-off for these? Can you strobe them?
Oh, like instantaneous, like within one wavelength. They're designed to be driven by picosecond level drivers.
Yeah.
Or nanosecond to picosecond range drivers. That's how they do the time of flight.
All right.
Okay.
So let's now jump to new
Roll
products.
in. Yep. New.
All right, first up.
Okay. First up, we've got the Gameduino Dazzler, and this is pretty nifty. So this is a two-parter. Basically, on the right is a feather wing breakout, and on the middle is this GD3X Dazzler, which has I want to get this part number correct. This is a Spartan 6 XC6SLX9 Xilinx FPGA, and it's also got the this FTDI HDMI driver chip. It's got a bunch of RAM and HDMI output, and basically it has a scripting system that lets you very quickly make stuff that connects to HDMI, and you can play videos and animations, and it's like pretty nifty. If you want to have HDMI coming out of your Feather M4, this is designed specifically for the Feather M4. It's kind of an all-in-one video system. So I have it hooked up here.
Yeah, check this out.
This is hooked up to an HDMI monitor. And this is like the first demo you run. So it's got, you can load in this bitmap and then you tell it you want it to rotate it. So this isn't a GIF. This is a composite image where it's like, it tells it to draw the background and then it tells it to draw all these blinkers and have them animate. So it's like, you can do quite advanced motion graphics and animations. Even though the Feather M4 can't do it, you have basically this graphics coprocessor. It's quite powerful. There's also an Arduino Shield version, and I think there's a Pico version. Of course, you can wire it up to a Pico. You just have to do wiring and stuff. But I just thought this was so cool. There's like video game demos and like animation demos, and like I think you can play MP4s or movies.
Just a glimpse of where we're going with like CircuitPython. Like there'll be HDMI out for
and
all this stuff.
What
so
I thought was
get started
neat
now.
is what's the person who James Bowman who did this and wrote the code. He realized if you have a coprocessor that's doing all the hard stuff, right, all the graphic stuff, it doesn't matter if the programming language that you're programming the coprocessor with is slow, because all the high-speed stuff is handled on the FPGA anyways. Like you don't need to control an FPGA with C. Control the FPGA with CircuitPython. It's easier and faster. You've got a file system to load. This bitmap is on the file system of the CircuitPython device. That part's really easy, and then you offload all the graphic stuff to the coprocessor. So they're very cool. So
I like it.
you want to do games, you want to do HDMI output, Game Arduino Dazzler. Next up, from M5 Stack, this was kind of neat. Somebody requested we got this, and we'll always carry stuff on request if we think it's cool. This is an M5 timer camera. It's an ESP32 with 8 megabytes of PS RAM, a camera module, and it's a nice little clip. And what's neat about it is an ultra low power RTC with a timer. So it's really designed to do like ultra low power, go to sleep, and then wake up, take a photo, and then send it over Wi-Fi. So if you want to make like an outdoor, or powered, low power Wi-Fi wake up, take a photo, send it project, this is kind of all in one, and even has a mounting bracket. It's kind of handy. Next up, NeoPixels, our favorite NeoPixels, either 3.5 millimeter or 3.5 millimeter. We love these. We use them on all sorts of our products, such as the Neo Trinky. You see 4 of them here, and you see them on many feathers. And you're probably like, man, I wish I had 100 of them. And I wish I had 100 of them on like a piece of cut tape. Well, we gotcha. This is, we've stocked these in packs of 10, but in case you ever want to like use these in a small pick and place, it's less expensive. We'll just send you a reel of 100 LEDs. You can use them. You can kind of hand solder them if you're careful. You can use them in reflow. Just be careful about moisture. They're very moisture sensitive.
Okay, next up.
Next up, we've got USB-C. We've been carrying a bunch of connectors. These are very low-cost USB-C connectors. Why are they so low cost? As you look on the bottom, you can see they have fewer pins than normal. They only have 6 pins. Why? Because they're power only. These do not have data lines. We're going to repeat that again. They do not have the data lines. We have other
Did you
ones
put it all over the product page in a million places?
I put it all over the place. These are specifically for power-only projects where you want to power something over USB-C, and again, only over USB-C, I think 5 volts. Put a 5 kilo ohm resistor from CC1, that's one of the pins to ground, another 5K from the other CC2 pin to ground, and then there's 2 bus pins, 2 ground pins. You got 5 volts out. No data lines, but they're really cheap, and they're pretty easy to solder because the pads are really big. So there are projects that I think could use this. Other than that, they're great connectors. Just, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but no data lines, just power.
All right, next up.
Next up, this is a cool, long piezo sensor. This is kind of interesting. So usually piezo sensors come in a square or round, vibration sensor shape. This is, these are originally designed to be sleep sensors. Like they go in a pillow or underneath a mattress, and when people move, it can detect it. So piezo sensors, when they're moved, you see this fine hand model, as this fine model, gently tweaks or pushes or twists the piezo, it generates a very small current between the 2 metal pins. You put a 1 mega ohm resistor between the pins, tie one to ground, tie the other to an analog input. You can read the analog input and detect touches, twists, etc. And then you can act on it. In this case, it was designed for a sleep sensor data logger. That said, it's so unusual to find a piezo that comes in this shape, this very long, thin, flexible shape. This could be used for all sorts of sensor applications, like wearables, I thought, or like sports, or, anytime you have a touch sensor and it has to go around something or through a thin slot. It's just a very unusual shape. It makes them a little bit more expensive, but I've never seen anything like it before. So I think these are quite cool. You can cut it down, of course, but once you've cut it, you cannot reattach it because the film is you can't solder the film. So you've got like the one end, and then it kind of goes on for 600 millimeters. Cut it. Just be aware, once you cut it, you can't uncut it.
All right, next up.
Okay, next up, we've got the NeoPixel with, this is a 1 meter long 60 LED NeoPixel strip, and it's got this very beautiful diffused silicone covering, which will also show on the overhead in a moment as soon as I get my demo going. So these are basically like your everyday normal NeoPixels. Power them with 5 volts, give them data on one of the pins using any NeoPixel library. But what's cool about them is they've got this very durable and weatherproof soft silicone covering. So let me turn it off so I can show you. So it looks, you can barely see the LED strip through it. I mean, it's almost more visible on the camera. And on the back, it's got a nice, it's a firm, stiff, like you can't really bend it this way, but it does bend back and forth this way. And what's nice about it is, as I mentioned, it's a very nice diffuse effect. More so than, it's not as much as our neon, which is, really a thick plastic and very hard to bend. And it's definitely not as clear as the clear translucent normal NeoPixel. It's diffused, and it makes it like kind of pastel-y. It kind of has a beautiful look. So we have really good photos. Check out the animations because they're shot quite nicely. But I think if you want something that's durable and weatherproof and has a little bit of diffusion, but still is flexible, this is a nice intermediary between the totally clear and, of course, this the totally diffuse neon NeoPixels.
Yeah.
So you hold it up.
Yeah, I wanted to show it on the other camera too. So
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's like, I like the look of it.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's a very elegant look.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's
I've
got the
known and seen
flexibility.
projects that like this is the main thing. They just wanted to be diffused, but they're using NeoPixels that aren't diffused.
it just has a nice, clean look to it. So I think, for wearable projects or architectural projects where you want it to be thinner than the neon, but
It's cool.
not as harsh as the clear NeoPixels. So I don't know, I like it. I
All
like some
right,
stuff.
next up, the star of the show tonight, besides you, Lady, our team, our community, all the customers, the folks in the chat, is
Itsy Bitsy RP 2040. That's right. We're gonna put some into the shop a little bit later tonight after the show because we ran out, but I stashed some, so we'll put some more in. This is the RP 2040 based Itsy Bitsy. So people like the Itsy Bitsy inspired by teensy boards, but I wanted to have them with different chips. So it's kind of the same sort of size. It's I think 0.7 inch by 1.2 inches. Bite-sized, but has lots of GPIO pins. The GPIO pins go all the way around. I want to show and compare. So this is the M0. Let me get right in there. Out of focus. And lock. Okay. So you got the M0 Express, the M4. Lock. The Blue Fruit, and now new friend is made RP 2040. So
for Itsy Bitsy.
it's for, well, there's
Quad
actually
Itsy Bitsy.
2 more, the 32U4 ones, which I didn't even bring down because these are nice and popular. But what I tried to do is I try to make them sort of similar. I try to have like the NeoPixels over here, and these have the buttons on the end. This, of course, has the antenna here, so the buttons have to move up. So the Itsy Bitsy, if you want to have a LiPo battery, you have a LiPo backpack that you can use with it. This is a single-sided board. It has an 8 megabyte QSPI flash. It has the reset button. It has the boot button. I did the cute Primarily hack where the boot button is also a user button after booting. So when you're running code, you can use this as a single button input. It's got a NeoPixel here. I wonder if I still have the NeoPixel going program. Yeah, I do. It's got one red LED for blinking. It's got the crystal, power supply, lots of little capacitors. I had to use a 402 components to make everything fit, but it did all fit in the end. And then on the bottom, we have the GPIO pinout. So this is if you're using it with Pico SDK or with MicroPython or something where you need to do the raw pin numbers. These are labeled on the bottom. And then there's one pin, D5, that's special purpose. And that pin is level shifted up to about 5 volts. So if you want to drive NeoPixels and you want a 5 volt output, there's just some times where people are like, I need to control something that's a 5 volt input. It really wants 5 volts, particularly NeoPixels. That pin is level shifted out to 0 to 5 volts. So you've got one pin over here. It's 5. It's got the exclamation point to remind you that it's the output pin. But otherwise, what's nice about the RP2040 is, it's a dual core Cortex M0. It's running at 130 megahertz. It's got CircuitPython and now Arduino support's coming out. MicroPython support. You can do Pico SDK, and you just got a lot of pins. And I made sure that you've got not only a lot of pins, but you got all the analog pins. There are 8 pins in a row if you want to do like camera projects where you use the PIO to drive 8 GPIO at once. They're not all in a row because I wanted to match like the SDA and SPI pin and UART and analog pins match the other itsy bitsies. But they are available. You can get to all those pins if you want. They're just, if you look on the bottom, I think it's 26, 27, 28, 29, and then 24, 25, 18, 19, 20, whatever. Basically, you got lots of pins that are in a row. So if you want to use PIOs to drive many pins in parallel, you got it. And, what's nice is that you can swap between the two. You got a project with an M0 or an M4, you want Bluetooth, swap between it. You want RP2040, swap between that as well. So, this is one of the original RP2040 boards that we said we would design, and so we fulfilled it. We got the Cutie Pie, Itsy Bitsy, and the Feather. So this is a great tiny board with lots of GPIO pins, and if you want, you can add a LiPo charger onto it by soldering on one of our LiPo backpacks.
And those new products. All right, so we're going to do some top secret, and I'm going to go to the Discord and do some questions. So let's first, while they're loading up over there, and I scroll back a little bit, here's, I'm going to play 3 videos. They're very fast, so I'm going to play them one after the other. These are stuff that we're working on and more. Maybe it's a tester on how we're doing things. And then I'm going to show some images of some things that are coming up. All right, Lady Ada, what is this?
Hey, it's a STEMMA Sunday, and today I'm reviving a really old project. This is a rotary encoder to I2C converter using Seesaw. It's a little 50-cent chip that does the rotary encoder measurements and then sends the data over I2C. Got my J-Link here because it's going to be fun to debug this. I've got my Metro wired up to this rotary encoder, and you see here I can turn this, and when I turn this knob, I have this Arduino code that is measuring the rotary position and plotting it out for me. So you can see it's working pretty well. What's nice about this is rotary encoders are really annoying to write firmware for. So having it all over I2C means you can connect multiple rotary encoders, and you don't do a lot of timing nonsense. So just testing this out, and it's also got a little button you can press. So this will be in the store soon.
Early data, what is this?
Hey, I am working on more rotary encoders with the Seesaw, the SMD09 I2C to rotary encoder converter. And I already got the single I2C to rotary converter adapter working, but now I'm like, what if I want 4 rotary encoders? So I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have NeoPixels, and the NeoPixels like change color based on how I'm rotating it, so I can test all 4 encoders. The cool thing is the code is actually extensible to like 16 encoders if it wanted to, but I think 4 is a good number. So over on my computer, I've got this example code that's plotting the rotary encoder reading. So this is how I'm just sort of testing to make sure that I can like twist all of the encoders and the values are changing. So looking good, very twisty.
All right, Lady Ada, what is this?
Well, I'm building another Cutie Pie RP2040 tester. This is the Cutie Pie RP20. It is so cute. It's so small. It's got all these pins, and on the back, got that Raspberry Pi logo. It's an RP2040 with 8 megabytes of flash. It's got a STEMMA QT connector and 2 buttons and a NeoPixel, and we have to test each board, make sure it works. So I've got this TNT 3.6, and it's using mass storage over USB to literally like load this as a little disk drive and then drag over the test UF2. So I plug this into USB-C, and then I've got this little cutout here, which, because there's no mounting hole, so just to line it up perfectly. I press the button, and this runs the test. And then it takes about 2 seconds, and then we know it's working. So if you want a cutie pie, sign up. It's part number 4900. Easy to remember. We're going to be making more of these, as you see. It's fast, so I'm going to test these and put them in stock today.
All right, lady, what's this?
This is a long, 75 millimeter long slide potentiometer that will connect over I2C and has some neopixels on the bottom.
What's this?
This one is a 4 arcade button with 4 LED driver, also over STEM QT.
What's this?
This is the QT2040 Trinky. This is the idea of a plug-in board with an RP2040 that you can then put a STEM QT board on top of and turn it into like a little like DIY Trinky.
Someone called it Linky Trinky, and we might have to use
I
that.
don't know, Linky Trinky.
Yeah, next one's mine. So each Trinky that we're releasing is going to have its own character. This is the potentiometer Trinky.
Sorry, no, it's the rotary encoder.
Sorry, rotary encoder. This is the
Proximity Trinky.
Proximity Trinky. This is a NeoPixel Trinky. And then we started off with this. This is a keyboard Trinky, but then I was talking to Bruce. I'm like, hey man, like, you might want to make it look more like keyboard. So now this is
I think it's got like a cool backpack.
NeoKey Trinky.
NeoKey.
And these will be the first 4 that we're doing. And then we'll have some non-forever Trinkies. We might like have to call them like NFTs or something. But just stay tuned for these. These are all the characters that go with it. And that is top secret for the week. Okay, I'm going to go to do questions. Don't forget, we're on discord.it/discord.
Okay.
And I'm going to speed round these. We're going to get a
round.
long show this.
Okay, no, we'll get to them.
We got all of them.
Wait,
Okay,
I tried
ready?
to get through new products fast. Okay.
Yeah, we did. Okay, let me start getting through these. There was a bunch that came up here. This is a video or picture one for you. How come the board comes out of one side of the belt on our oven? Is it just the order, or is it just...
Oh, sometimes when we want to put boards through, and they sit flat on the... It's more work because you have to put them on the mesh belt, but they come out flatter. They don't sink. So for some boards, it's better if you put them on the mesh belt.
Do you still use your hot air gun?
I do.
Okay.
It's great for rework.
Oh, what solder or solder do you use?
I actually use lead-free a lot, but I still have some leaded 6040. That's the same one we sell in the shop, to be honest. I really like it when I'm dealing with something that's better with low temp.
What do you think of converting an air fryer to reflow oven instead of a toaster oven hot plate? I have a cheap one just sitting here tempting to think the blower might help.
No idea. I just look online, see what people are doing.
My guess is not going to work.
Yeah.
I think you need a more stable... Like a hot air, it circulates too much, I think. And also
Yeah.
might blow the parts off.
I don't even know what an air fryer is,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Okay.
I'm not from the South.
Next up, Christopher's show. The game Duino 3X Dazzler. I appreciate the heads up that you can't use a stacking header. Thoughts if you can get an airlift breakout to the pins near the header. I wanted to connect it to Adafruit IO, or should I wait for the Adafruit DVI breakout?
I would actually ask the James Bowman for support because the pins are fixed, and I think it conflicts with the airlift. I don't actually know. It's very magical. I would ask him to try out to make sure that it is compatible with any other feather wings.
Okay, is it easily possible to change the picture on the matrix display over Wi-Fi from Windows using an easy custom app like LabVIEW Code? Which, if so, which feather brain is the best for this type of dedicated 24/7 micro 2x2 array of addressable LED apps, ESP32 still, or RP2040 with Wi-Fi shield frames per minute?
You could. I mean, there's a lot you're asking.
So, what's that real-time Microsoft one on Windows?
Yeah, just use Expressive Pixels.
Expressive Pixels is exactly what you want, I think.
Yeah, just use that.
Okay.
I was like, too many question marks.
Photons or waves?
Both.
No, this is the thing.
Okay.
You know, I'd like to work on the standard model because I think there's some things, we got some muons, but it really needs some work. Anyways,
Yeah, we were busy.
gotta do electronics first. Okay, is there anything special I need to set up a board for pick and place? I have boards made for hand assembly in Eagle, but is pick and place much different? Is it easy as to follow design rules and give them the Gerber?
You need to talk to your board assembly house. They will tell you exactly what they need, and believe me, they have a list of all the things that they don't want you to do. So you should ask them because they will have that list. And please follow the list. And you can have them look at your Gerbers before you order them. because it's very expensive to reorder Gerber, especially if it's more than a 2-layer board.
Can the piezo sensor be used as a buzzer, like a button piezo
No,
transducer?
it's a sensor input.
Okay. Is the RP2040 itsy bitsy USB-C or micro?
It's micro to stay the same as the rest.
Okay. How about a 2mm pitch version for 24% smaller, castellated only for thinner?
That's a different board.
Okay. Question. I've always wondered, could you put an SD feather wing on an SD feather? I wanted to make a copy of an SD card test file. Would the pins conflict? Any way to have the additional SD card use another pin?
It would not.
Foreseen issues.
An SD Ada logger, you could connect another SD feather. However, I'm not sure that the SD FAT or SD library and Arduino support having more than 2 SD file systems. So you're going to be stuck there.
Okay. The $59 USB MIDI drums have 8 encoders, 7-bit. CircuitPython library for them yet?
I have no idea what that is. You can connect 8 encoders. I think Todd Bot connected 8 encoders to CircuitPython.
You're from Boston.
Yeah.
How do Bostonians pronounce solder?
Solder.
Solder, yeah. So that's pretty much so.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the humidity sensitivity in components only for pick and place or hand solder too?
It's for hand solder, but it's because you're not putting it through an oven. It may or may not affect it. It's a complicated thing, but you already have so much more danger going on with hand soldering that you will bump into different problems than humidity inside of, say, an LED that's cracking it open.
Would you make an ITSY to feather?
No, because we have the feather. We should use a feather.
Okay. I'll answer this one. What will Adafruit's cryptocurrency policy be with regard to recent environmental concerns? Well, the only thing that we do right now is people can use Bitcoin on checkout. It uses BitPay, and that gets converted to US dollars to us at time of checkout.
Yeah.
Not really anybody uses it.
Nobody uses it. It's like 4 people
because
a week.
Yeah, and maybe we'll discontinue it at some point. But the idea was when Bitcoin came out, and it was people were talking about it being used as currency, not something you buy and hold on to forever and like watch it go up.
Yeah, most people aren't actually spending it, so it has nothing to do with us.
So right now our policy is we accept it as a form of currency, Bitcoin, through BitPay, and we don't have any crypto products of our own. So I'll give you an example. We don't have an Adafruit coin. We're not doing Adafruit NFTs. But what is going to change soon? Probably a lot of things, because people are talking about the environmental impact. I just saw there are certain countries where the amount of Bitcoin mining is so high, it's higher than all countries' entire power usage. So obviously there's a lot to work out. But right now, we really like to do electronics and focus on teaching and learning and helping people. And so I think a cryptocurrency or something like that would be a distraction for us. We're interested in what's going to happen. We're interested in eco-friendly things. So right now the only thing we do, and it's been going on for, I think, maybe 7 years, we accept Bitcoin via BitPay.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it would be nice for a currency to be used in this method, because that could potentially,
I think if it was used as a currency,
save a lot of like,
it wouldn't be used as a the value wouldn't be so extreme.
Yeah.
Because it
Okay.
would actually be more tied to a dollar.
Yeah. You want to what's generally the worldwide part storage being caused by? Because it's not that boat that was stuck.
No, basically long lead times. Some companies can book, they pre-booked. There's long lead time for components, and people didn't do good forecasting. That's how it is.
Okay, I asked about the ITSY to feather converter. Next up, why is everyone moving to MIDI HDMI? It feels so weak. Yeah,
Smaller,
actually, I like the bigger HDMI connectors.
This thing has a big HDMI.
Yeah, I like that.
Big HDMI.
But I have 3 different HDMI connectors
There's micro,
of the same camera type. So I have the
you have to have mini,
Lumix.
micro.
Yeah. What's the best option for feather that doesn't need Bluetooth or Wi-Fi?
I like the Feather M4 or the new RP2040.
Okay, having just got a grip on Arduino and Platform I/O, I see you're heavy towards CircuitPython. Will you always continue to support Arduino IDE and new products, or will I have to learn CircuitPython? I would say, look at the project you want to do, and see which is the easiest way to do it. There's times where we will just have like Arduino supports for something because it doesn't make sense to do in CircuitPython. But for the most part, like we should have,
everything has Arduino support.
Yeah, we should have pretty much.
Unless there's a very, very good reason why it doesn't, or we don't have the Arduino core. Like there was an Arduino core for RP2040, there is now. ESP32S2, I feel like the CircuitPython experience is better than the Arduino experience. But for the most part, there's always Arduino code, and you can choose.
So
whether you
every
want all the
time,
drivers.
every time Arduino shared any type of stats about libraries and downloads, Adafruit was either number 1 or number 1, 2, and 3, or number 1 through 10 for libraries. Like it's important to us. We like to support it.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: if you have a chance, try one project with Arduino. Try it with CircuitPython. It's the same project.
Compare.
And just see, because who cares? Try it with MakeCode.
You might like it.
On the same board, you can try it.
Yeah.
Do we think we'll see Intel or AMD microcontrollers? If so, would you use them? Yeah, sure.
They existed and they got discontinued.
Yeah. Let's see. But I'll say this. I really like that Raspberry Pi has managed to come in and help disrupt the microcontroller market because it was needed.
Yeah.
And good luck trying to find some SAMD's 21s right now, but you can find some RP2040s.
Sure.
Okay. What library do you wish existed for CircuitPython? That's a good question.
You
Is there
can go to
anything-
github.com/CircuitPython and click on the driver tag for issues, and people have requested libraries. Check those out. I'll write one of those.
Will
Because then
we
you'll know somebody will appreciate it.
Will we see home automation products with cameras? Yeah.
I'm sure you will.
We will make them, and it'll be open source, and you can figure out how it's all working out, and that's not sending cameras elsewhere, camera photos somewhere. Thank you for the session. You guys are cool. Can you please share some insights to your journey so far?
Oh, you gotta wrap it up. So watch the last 90 minutes. We just talked about it.
You know what? I will give you just one sentence to ponder over.
Yeah,
Publish something every day,
it's true. That's the best advice.
because that covers probably a whole bunch of other things. But no matter what you're doing in life, whether it's like I want to exercise and lose weight, put X on the calendar every day in a row that you do it and keep those going. If you want to be a writer, write something every day, but make sure you publish it. If you have ideas, publish them somewhere. Trust me, your ideas aren't so great that you should keep them in your head forever. Get them out there, and also like you might end up meeting some people and do them. So that's
That's your word of wisdom.
that's my jewel of wisdom for today for your journey. Publish every day. And then with that is all of our questions.
Okay, great.
Oh, one more. Sorry. How do you balance what you want to do on a product versus what will make it reasonable to market?
Check out Maker to Market. We have a whole video series all about the process.
Yeah, I will
I did
add
10 videos all about
I will add the following. I think back in the day, people would say, "Oh, if electronics are made overseas, it's always going to be cheaper." That's not always true. In fact, we're competitive with everyone for what we do, because turns out if you focus and you do really good manufacturing in one spot, your test and prep in one spot, and you have really talented people, you can bring that cost down. So like a Circuit Playground Express, good luck trying to find something that does exactly the same thing with all its capabilities, lower cost anywhere. Because ultimately,
Design adds value.
you'd end up. We know what the BOM costs. Like it is a good value for what it is. So I would say that that's one of the things too. Make something so good that it's worth it for folks, whether it be a time investment. Hopefully it's easy, but also even if it costs more, make it so you know that it's so much more valuable. Like you can, theoretically you can get by with just like a knife in your kitchen cabinet, and you can use it for everything, but you're eventually going to like poke yourself, you're going to hurt yourself. You should probably get a fork at some point, or a spoon.
Where's this going?
Because it's worth it.
Okay.
Like you're making things easier, you're doing things for people. So I feel that way with electronics.
Okay.
Like your time is valuable. Like you can get by with just having one utensil,
Yeah.
but like your time is valuable. So like if you want to do like LED art and stuff like that, like you can
Use the right tools.
You can cut your teeth on and make sure you learn a transistor and a capacitor, and 5 years from now you'll blink. Or you can like use something that just gets you started easier because your time is valuable. Or stab yourself with a knife. In
Your
the eye.
choice.
Yeah.
Some people like that.
Okay.
It's their hobby.
So that was the last thing. All right. We
All right, thanks, everybody.
will see you tomorrow on some form online in some way. JP shows tomorrow. Scott's Deep Dive is Friday. Thank you so much, everybody. Let me see who is in our behind-the-scenes Adafruit chat tonight, and I'll thank them. Thank you, Takara. Thanks so much, Takara. We will see everybody next week. Thanks for ordering stuff, please. Keep us going. Here's everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And we'll see everybody next week. Here is your Mum Ziner.
Bye.